And now, our feature presentation.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a series. I don't know how long this is going to go on for. It's going to go on for as long as I have material for it. That I am tentatively calling Major Emotion Pictures, where it's me talking with people I know about films they love, that I've seen, that I haven't seen, that are well known, that are not well known, and just discussing them, just talking about movies. And first up, I have with me a very old friend of mine. This is Cameron. Say hello,
Hey,
Cameron.
what's up?
And we're talking about the A24 film, The Florida Project, which might be well known, might not. I don't know how popular this movie actually was when it released. But just
I
giving.
it took me a very long time to actually realize that this movie existed.
I mean, I saw it on like Lady Bird's Blu-ray
Mhm.
and like the trailers beforehand, and it was on net. It's been on Netflix for forever, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. So just to give a little bit of background to for the film for those who are not aware, it came out in 2017. It's like a slice of life film, directed by Sean Baker, who directed another really good film called Tangerine. It's got William Defoe, Brooklyn Prince, Bria Vinate, I think is how you pronounce her name. Um, Most of the cast, it's a first time film, and it follows a 6-year-old girl living with her mother in a motel in Florida, right? You can see like Disney World, like right across the way in many of the scenes of the film. And it follows their day to day life over the course of one summer. And Cameron, you picked this movie. And I want to know why. Why this one? You have a lot of interesting favorite films, and I want to know why you picked this one in particular.
Well, when you first like came up to me talking to me about like this project and everything, I um I hadn't even seen the movie. I was thinking about like doing something else, and then I did see that it was on Netflix, and I watched it, and I was just kind of floored. I was really engaged in it the entire time. Like, I'm normally really distracted during a lot of movies and everything, TV shows, whatever, but like I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. I was really, invested in the characters, specifically like, feeling for like Mooney and Scooty and everything.
Which is,
But this is like it it not only is like one of the funniest movies I've seen in a long time, it's also like heartbreaking. It makes me angry at sometimes. There's so many different emotions that this movie made me feel.
it's
That's the biggest reason.
it's funny you say funny because I really wouldn't describe this as a funny movie.
It's not.
It it's funny in that like slice of life way, wherein just from like I've seen a lot of people describe some like dramas that are coming out nowadays as having like, well, there's a lot of comedic moments in those movies.
Mhm,
Whereas I feel like if you watch them, you're like, not really. Those are just moments where in real life, like people would make jokes because a lot of times, like
mhm.
human beings, like we make jokes and we inject comedy into our day to day lives to like help combat just like the weirdness and like the difficulties of everyday life. So I feel like it really does feel like that.
Hmm.
Whereas it's silly and it's comedic in some respects just because it feels like life.
Well, it's especially just because it is following a young child who um is getting a different perspective on the world than like most people, and doesn't have any sort of like, I guess, consequences like from her mom or anything. And so like
Yeah.
I guess it's funny because in the beginning, the one of the first thing you see is them spitting on that lady's car, her yelling at them, and they're just, go home, you ratchet bitch. Like they don't care.
Yeah, it's like
It's weird.
it's funny because like there's all of this sense of like I feel like especially in the years era, I don't know what you would call it, that you and I grew up in, where like phones were really starting to become a major thing, like video games were really starting to become like a major thing. There was that a lot of like go outside, just go play with your friends. Where I was like, that's what's happening here. There is
Mhm.
no there's an I she has an iPad for like a little bit of the film, but like she doesn't have a phone. There's no video games. She watches TV like probably a lot less than your average kid. Um, and a lot of this is just her going out and like living her life and just exploring like a kid with no shackles would. So before we get into her anymore, so specifically we're talking about um, Brooklyn Prince, a first-time actress who was only like 6 or 7 when the film was made, and she is heartbreaking. She is amazing.
She's stunning.
Like there are moments where it ceases to feel like an actor. It just feels like this is just a child. I'm watching a child. I'm watching a life play out on screen. Um, and I don't even know if that like you could say that's the director, you could say that's the screenplay or the writing. I don't even know that much. I feel like it's just her.
Yeah,
Like
it felt like a kid being a kid.
like especially coming out of the era of like there's been a lot of movies recently with a lot of terrible child actors.
Mm.
Even movies that I've like tried to defend and like actors I've tried to defend, but like this is she is so extremely good. Even compared to like sharing the screen with all the other actors,
Mhm.
um it's just a really there, there's a lot of empathy going on in the entire film. And you just genuinely feel for everyone who's involved in this.
Mhm.
Um, especially, what is her name? What is the character's name? Let me see
Mooney?
here. Well, no, not because Mooney. That is Brooklyn Prince's character,
Yeah.
6-year-old girl. I'm talking about Haley, her mother, who is
Oh,
also played by a first-time actress,
really?
Bria Vanette.
She was impressive.
She was really good, and she's that kind of character that you kind of hate a little bit. You look at and you want to like grab and shake and be like, "What are you doing? Stop it!"
It's so interesting just because like as the movie plays out, like for the first maybe half of the movie, it's not like a big plot or story happening. It's just painting the picture of this motel right outside of Disney World. And like you start, see the Mooney and Scooty and Mooney's mom and everything, and you're like, oh, she's cute. She's got this like she's
Yeah,
got this fun, not like just a friend parent thing going on.
yeah. It's
And
they're just having fun. They're just having as good of
mhm.
a time as they can with the situation that they are in.
And that's one of the like something that I really enjoyed about that movie is stuff that they did with her character specifically, because they introduced you to like her, and at some points in the movie, like it mainly just like followed Mooney, but at some points it actually did follow her, like when they went to like they went out to like a party at some point, like Mooney's mom and Scooty's mom.
Hmm.
But then you get through the movie a little bit and you see that the movie's not really going around her, and the movie is actively doing so many things to get you to not even look at her, like when they're like one specific example that I can think of the most is that's more, you know, subtle, is when they were in the restaurant with that Scooty's mom works at,
Mm-hmm.
and she started to walk away. The camera still just looking at her, did not cut away while the mom off camera went, "You gonna take my order still?" And she like went back over.
It's it. I can I could easily see people criticizing this film um, for 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 not being critical of the people living in the motel and of Mooney's mom specifically. And I can see in the hands of a different director it completely being that, but it
Hmm.
I don't think it is that kind of a movie. It doesn't
For
at any
sure.
point feel it doesn't at any point feel like poking fingers. Like I've been to Disney World. My family has a timeshare at Disney World in Florida. We've been many, many times. I've passed many of these motels throughout my entire life driving down. You would think that by the end of this movie, I would like someone in particular who's been to Florida that many times, who's explored Disney that many times, I would feel bad. Like describing this movie to you, you would think like, "Oh, well, you must have felt like shit once the movie was over, like all the time you spent there." And I didn't because it
Hmm.
doesn't feel angry at
Yeah,
anyone. It feels extremely empathetic.
it's just life. They're just living.
They're living the best that they can with the circumstances that have been handed to them, and it's
At
I
least
think
at least the kids are extremely happy for most of the
oh yeah,
movie. They're just
it's
living their life, having a great time.
yeah. And I do think this is not a movie that a lot of people would like purely because people would I can totally see people getting bored with this because there really isn't a plot.
It's so
There
much building of like the world and how
yeah,
and specifically like the situation of Mooney and her mom.
like the last 20-25 minutes there is plot. There are things escalating that eventually come to a culmination and
Hmm.
those that culmination is from like oh well the last like the rest of the movie, all of those things have built up to this, but it never feels like this is piece A, and next you're going to get piece B, and next you're going to get
Hmm.
piece C, and they will form the whole at the end. It just feels
It just
like
flows.
right. Um,
Like another thing that's kind of like that that shot in the restaurant is the whole thing with Mooney's baths. There's like several scenes when she's, you know, taking a bath and
let me
everything.
tell you
There's
about
loud ass
that.
hip hop playing in the background, and she's just like doo 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 doo,
Well,
and
see,
it
here's
happens
the
several
thing:
times.
the I watched this film with my mother,
Ooh,
and
how'd she like it?
she enjoyed it. She liked it. But after the first bath scene, I was just sitting there. I was just watching the movie, and the first bath scene happened, and I went, "I know. Yep, I know what that is."
It took
And she
the
goes,
second
"What the
one.
hell? What are you talking about?" And I was like, I know what that is." We're gonna get into much more major spoilers with regards to the ending of the film towards the end of the video, but minor spoilers for the later half of the film right now. So the bathtub scenes in particular, there are multiples. I think there's like 3 or 4. You don't
Hmm.
learn what they mean until the very last one, but they're still popping up without explaining it to you, allowing you, the audience, to piece together what's happening. It's eventually to the point where you realize, oh, Mooney's being told to go get in the baths. There's very loud music playing. Her mother is I don't even know the verb you would use, or like a past tense. She's prostituting herself so that they can continue to live in the motel, so that they can continue to get food. And it's those scenes where you see, because you don't hear anything. There's no like camera pan from the bedroom over to. It's just Mooney in the bathtub playing with toys, having a good time, enjoying herself. And it's such an extremely, it's such a great way to show that, to just to further iterate this is not a movie about the parents. The parents are here, they are a huge part of it, but this is not a movie about them. This is a movie about the kids.
It's like
Um
it's also it's and it's not even like I mean, of course they do like explain to you what's going on and everything, but in the last one, they never cut away from Mooney because like
Right.
the guy that's there walks into the bathroom to pee, doesn't realize that there's a child in there. She comes in, she's like, "I told you not to go to the bathroom. Get out of there." He's like, "I had to pee." She's like, "Get out of there," and everything, and it doesn't cut away from Mooney
It's static
ever.
camera. She's just staring up, and door shuts, music resumes, and you just see her, the like that realization in her eyes of just like, I'm just gonna go back to my toys now. Like, maybe she does not comprehend exactly what's happening, but she knows the atmosphere of the room, like that
Hmm.
lingering, like, oh, what? Okay, that the room has been left with.
And how that scene very kind of masterfully like brings the plot along with like the Disney bands and everything. Um, like it's
God, there were so
so
many.
subtle.
Okay, okay. If we're gonna talk about that, then we need to get into what is probably my personal favorite aspect of the entire film. So,
Was it the part with the bands?
well, yes, not a specific scene. So
Just the
there's a
whole part of it.
there's a moment in the film where Mooney's mother, one of the guys that she's invited over, she steals magic bands for people unfamiliar. They're pretty much they're wristbands that get you into Disney World. They're like tickets. She steals them out of his bag. He goes back to confront her, and the manager of the motel, played by William Defoe, comes up. He's been pissed at Mooney's mother for most of the movie. She's late on her rent. She's not paying. He understands like there's some shady stuff happening. She's angry at him. She's belligerent. Like, he should not have any reason to go and protect her. And yet, when he sees this happening and he realizes what's going on, he just looks at the dude and he says,
I'm happy to call the cops right now and we can fill out a report. And you can tell them what your business was on the premises.
4 bracelets. I imagine they were for your wife and children, yeah? I suggest you leave the premises right now.
and that brings me to my favorite thing in the entire movie because it is my favorite character archetype. William Defoe in this movie is so extremely good.
Mm.
And he plays my favorite character archetype, which is the I'm so pissed at you beyond all end, but I will still fight tooth and nail if anyone comes for any of you, which is the basis of my favorite scene in the entire movie, the creepy guy. My favorite part of the entire movie.
Yeah, yeah. See that like the thing about that scene is that it's not like the story doesn't rely on that at all.
No, it's just a moment that happens.
The tension, the whole time I'm just like I'm sitting at myself. The second I saw that old guy walk over to the kids, I was like, no.
I was like,
no, we're in Florida.
get away, get away. Like, I'm sure that you've been able to put it together, but there's an older guy who comes up to all these kids who live at the motel. They're all playing out in the parking lot and by the pool. And he comes up and he starts talking to them. William Defoe sees him. He walks over. He starts talking to him, and he very expertly like gets him away from the kids, makes sure that he's far, far away from them before he ever confronts the dude. And he makes it very clear. He's like,
Good? Sure. Get the fuck out of here.
You come on this property again and you won't be leaving it, you understand?
I don't know what you're talking about.
and just I love a prickly character who is angry, who has every reason to hate all of these other characters, and yet he has such a heart of gold. He is so willing to do anything to help protect these people because he
Mhm.
genuinely cares about them.
For
It is-
sure.
It is, yeah. He is one of the best characters in the entire movie. He's one of my personal favorites.
He's so good. Another thing about the scene, with the bands and everything, is that because that scene happens where the guy walks into the bathroom or Mooney's in there, and then later on, scene where they're selling Disney bands to some random guy, and then him knocking on the door, but nothing at all in the movie suggests, in the slightest, that she stole his Disney bands until he
Right.
comes and knocks on the door and everything, and you're like,
Right.
you're kind of confused because
You're like, oh, come on, did you sell like old Magic bands? Did you find those? And like there's no, it never explains anything to you ahead of time.
the
It allows
only
you to piece things together.
the old like because even when he comes knocking on the door saying that she stole him, he like it never showed the guy in the bathroom, and it never said that he was
Right.
there on vacation with his family or anything. So there's no reason for you to believe that he's the guy that he was there. And there's only just one line at the end of that scene where Mooney just goes, "Did he have to pee again?" And that's the only line.
I didn't
that-
even pick up on that.
Mhm. The second watch through it took it like I didn't realize it the first time.
So
And I was like,
so we've talked about the actors, we've talked about the perspective of well, that's something I actually do want to touch on a little bit more, because I don't know if it would have stuck out to me as much had I not been watching it with my mother. But there were quite a few scenes where she and I were talking throughout the movie, and she just goes, "I'm so scared for these kids," while they're out wandering through the Florida marshlands, while they're out like exploring, like walking around on their own. I'm so scared for these
no
kids.
supervision.
There's absolutely no supervision. And it was at that point where I realized, like, I mean, there are so many stories that we like idolize because it's like the kids are out on they're like the Peter Pan kind of stories, whether they are just Peter Pan or they're like novels or TV shows or whatever, like that we love because of that. Like, oh, the kids are getting so much freedom. Like this, like it's a child on their own. Whereas within this, the way that the film structures it, it's not any different to. It doesn't present them in any way different than like a Peter Pan story would be presented.
Yeah.
But it's just that innate like realism to it that makes you scared. Like, where is the terrible thing that's going to happen?
And that comes into play when they go into the old abandoned condos and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that, drives the plot for the rest of the whole movie.
Right.
Because, they're unsupervised and they're just having the time of their life. They're just like, one of my favorite moments is in that scene when Mooney and, I can't remember the other girl's name.
Mooney and
Jancy, that's right. Mooney and Jancy were like in there and they hear a bunch of banging and Mooney's like, "Scooty, what are you doing?"
I'm
And
breaking
he's
the
like-
wall.
and
Okay,
she just,
have fun.
"Good luck." Yeah.
like that's because that's what a kid would do. Like a kid would be like, "Oh, you're doing cool, have fun." Like they don't know. They didn't. They take the toilet. Somehow these 3 6-year-olds move a toilet and it's like, oh, there's a hole in the wall. Let's push the toilet out the second like window or whatever. And it just lands on the ground and they're laughing and they're like, woohoo, yay, toilet broke. Like,
And another there's so many parts of that scene that show me like my favorite parts of that movie, because there's also the part of that scene where Mooney is in just that one room in this broken down abandoned house.
oh,
saying,
the
"This is
heartbreak.
my room."
Ooh. This would be my bed, and that would be my bookshelf. No, actually, my bed would be right in the middle, and lots of toys.
Like it made me so sad because she's in a broken down, busted, abandoned house, but she's like, imagine having more than one room.
Yeah, it's God, that scene is because that perfectly encapsulates the because there's no point in the movie where it ever shows this is not a movie that's like, well, Mooney is smarter than the other kids. She knows what's going on. It's not one of those kinds of. It's not like an Artemis Fowl kind of like. She's just a normal kid. They even talk about school at one point, and she's just like, oh yeah, school's fun. I like school. I like recess the most. Like, there's nothing that's to say that she knows what's going on. So we are given no way of knowing, does she kind of understand the difference between a house and the motel where she's living? Does she know why she's there? We never meet her dad. There's none of the stories about her dad. There's none of that mentioned at all. And it's just really, it provides this fascinating look into the mind of a child of just like the simplicity of a lot of it. Just like
Mhm.
she doesn't know to question anything or think that there is anything wrong with the way that she's living because she just doesn't think there is. She's never been taught that there was.
Mhm. Especially because like after that, is when they get into like the area with the chimney and everything. And the second, Mooney's like, "I have an idea, Scooty. Do you have your lighter?" I was like, "Okay, this bitch getting burned down."
Like just cuz like no, they don't think they're doing anything wrong. They're like, it's a fireplace. Fire belongs there.
And that
Like,
also shows like after that how each kid reacts very differently because um immediately Mooney's like okay, go home, Jancy, bye, don't tell anybody. And Mooney is doing everything in her power just to stay away from it, but Scooty gets home and he immediately is like yeah, no,
mom
that was
immediately
us.
interrogates him and was like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?"
And
Like
then and
even
Mooney looked the same, and Mooney's mom was just like, "Ah, look at this, it's burning down. Let me take your picture."
it's like juxtaposing even within this like the people living at the motel, even within these kinds of people, showing the differences of like, well, yes, Mooney's mother is trying in her own way, but like Scooty's mother has a job. Like they are better off. They have two beds in their hotel room versus Mooney has one. Like just those
Mhm.
small details of showing like it's not just about like the haves and the have-nots. The like I have this career salary versus you have no job or a fast food job. It's like even within that there are differences and
Mhm.
there is a little bit of elitism that comes out from that.
Mhm. And it shows definitely shows the character of Haley, I think you said was her name, the Mooney's
Yeah,
mom.
Mooney's mother.
And just specifically what kind of person she is.
She wants like Scooty's mother is working, goes off to her job every day, leaves Scooty with Mooney or with friends of hers, or like I don't know. I think because there's one scene where Scooty gets left with a guy. We don't see him. I think it's his dad. I don't know. It's like
Well, I know,
kind of
are you
implied that
talking
it
about
is.
like when they went to like a party or something?
No, when Mooney's mother is like, "Hey, can Scooty come out to play?" Well, no, she does. She said that she doesn't want Scooty playing with Mooney anymore.
That's
That guy.
right.
It's
Yeah, I
kind of
remember that.
implied that that's Scooty's dad, but like,
That's
but
the only
my
time he's ever there.
right. But my point is like, there are the differences between, hey, um, she has a job, she goes to the job, versus like she cares about Scooty in the sense that she wants him to have the best life possible, even if she's not able to see him for most of the day, so she can work. Whereas Mooney is like, Mooney's mother is like, I want to see my kid. I want to spend time with my kid. Even when I'm like selling perfume in the parking lot to try and pay for food and pay for our rent, I want to do it with my kid. I want to spend as much time with my kid as possible. And it's that desire to spend as much time with her as possible is what ties into the ending. So full complete spoiler warning right now. I'll have something pop up on the screen because we're going to talk about the ending.
Well, before we get to the ending, there's
Oh,
two specific
okay.
things that
Yeah.
that I remember. The first one is the when Haley comes to Scooty and their motel and everything for the last time, and she,
I would
you
say
know,
that lumps in with the ending.
okay, cool. Then
Well,
then I'll
well, yeah.
talk about that later.
But yeah, so
The
what
other
else?
thing, maybe it could sort of lump in with the ending, but the helicopters. That's a
Yeah.
very important part of this movie.
Like there's constantly helicopters
Just
and
flying in and out of Disney.
well, because my mother and I were like, "Is that Disney? Is that like a hospital?"
It is.
Like,
No, I know exactly what that is. Those are helicopters flying in and out of Disney, real Disney that they couldn't get to stop, so they just filmed while they were doing it. They didn't have the budget. They couldn't go to Disney and be like, "Hey, stop flying your helicopters.
Interesting.
We're filming." So they just put it into the story. They wrote it into the story. They even added it to, give tension and shit.
Yeah, because you're constantly like, what is that? What are you? Where
Mhm.
are you? But it's that constant reminder of like, look at us, look at where we're living, look at the state that we're living in. Even those of us who are really, really trying, like a mile away, like right over the road over there are people like, yes, this is my $4,000 a night resort. Like we've got the park hoppers, like right across the way. Just a constant reminder of like, there are very different lives existing here. Because there are places like we're from Virginia, like we know like Busch Gardens,
Mhm.
but Busch Gardens did not make Williamsburg. Busch Gardens
Yeah.
exists there, and it is a huge part of the economy of Williamsburg. But
But
if
it's
Busch Gardens
mainly
left Williamsburg, we
it's still
would not see
colonial
like
Williamsburg.
we would not see a collapse of the Williamsburg economy. Whereas if you say Orlando, you think, oh, it's Disney World. Okay, well, what
Mhm.
else?
Uh
Beaches? Is Orlando the beaches? The beaches? Disney World made Orlando. Like
Yeah.
you drive up the street in Florida, you see stores with windows plastered with cheap Disney World tickets, cheap Universal tickets, cheap, like you'll see like coupons in like a 7-Eleven for Busch Gardens, but you don't see stores plastered with cheap Busch Gardens tickets.
Mhm. And you see so many of those stores everywhere. Like, another thing, I just keep thinking about things. Like, that scene where, the couple is going on their honeymoon, to Disney World, and they
That hurt
accidentally
me
book
a
the
little
wrong
bit.
hotel,
Because
and
it's called the Magic Castle.
yeah, and Mooney's looking through the window, and she straight up goes,
She looks pretty. Yeah. But I feel bad for her. She's about to cry. I can always tell when adults are about to cry.
and
It's a
she
moment like
starts
that where you're like,
crying. It's
where
like,
it
"Mooney, no!"
it speaks to the like honesty of like, this is a child. There is no filter. She knows this. She can just tell. Like you could argue, well, it's not that hard to tell. Well, it's like, yeah, but it's still a child. Like
It's still a
piecing
very
this
young
together.
child. And
Um,
they're literally there to help move suitcases in hopes that they will give them tips.
William Duffy straight up just says like, yeah, don't they just want tips. Don't pay them any mind. But yeah, like so we got to talk about the ending.
Mhm.
So spoilers for the ending starting now. So to give some background as to why the ending happens. Well, spoilers for the entire film, pretty much. So when they go to the condos, as you mentioned, they burn it down. Scooty's mother confronts him and says like, "Hey, what's wrong? Do you know anything about the condos that are on fire that we can all see from like our hotels? Do you know anything about that?" He won't answer her. He won't say anything. She's like, "Do you know anything about that?" He still like won't say anything to her. And so eventually, like, she says, "You're not going to hang out with Mooney anymore. You're not going to hang out with her mother anymore. Mooney is clearly like a bad influence, doing all these things with you, doing all these illegal things," to the point where, at the scene you were talking about, Mooney's mother goes and confronts her and says like, "Hey, why are you preventing our kids, their friends? Why can't they hang out anymore?"
That's it gets me.
And she just waltzes in and she's like, I forget the exact line. She says something along the lines of like, "I want Scooty in there because who knows if he's going to be in there while you shove Mooney in the bathroom and are whoring out." And the moment she says that, Mooney's mother jumps in and starts to beat her. Like not like the fun, flashy like Captain America, like throwing punches and blocking, like on the
Knock her
ground,
to the
like
floor.
you see her 5 or 10 minutes later, and her eye, which I have one of my favorite details in the entire scene, which we will talk about when we get into the actual ending as it's playing out. But it means Scooty's mother calls the Department of Childs and Families, the DCF. It's in Florida. It's the Child Protective Services in Florida. They go. They've already been there to talk to Mooney's mother, and she's saying like, "See, look, the room has been cleaned up. I've gotten my stuff together." The police are there. They say, "Well, we have security camera footage from this facility of men going in and out of your room at all hours of the night. We've seen the like massive jumps in the amount of money you have. We have some theft reports that align with your name. Even if those aren't true, like that's a lot of allegations against you. We need to take Mooney from you and give her to another family." And the entire sequence is playing out. They take Mooney. They say, "Oh, will you go say goodbye to your friends? Is there anyone you want to say goodbye to?" And made me want to punch one of the officers. One of the officers straight up says, "Don't go say goodbye. We never say goodbye here. You'll see them again." Whereas, like, no, you won't. No, she won't. Don't spew that at this child.
Yeah,
like,
they keep telling her that it's temporary. The whole time he's like, it's just a small amount of time, just temporary. And she's like, "What's temporary?" Because she's just a cute little kid. And they're like, "Just a little bit of time," but like that's not gonna happen. She's never getting custody of her kid back.
and you get the two extremely like almost flips your opinion of them around moments from these parents. Scooty's mother, she said, "I want to go say goodbye to my friend Scooty." So they go down to the room. Scooty's mother answers the door. Scooty and Mooney are saying goodbye. Scooty's mother has a massive black eye, is like clearly hurt, does not say anything. Maybe she already did on the phone because it's heavily implied, although we don't know for sure that she called the child services. Maybe she said on the phone that she beat her, but in that moment, she is stone-faced. She does not say anything. She doesn't, and it's one of those moments where I'm like, I like you a little bit more because you could have very easily said, "Hey, by the way, she came into my room, she beat the shit out of me, like all of this. That's because of her mother." She does not say a word of that. She hugs Mooney as well. She's like, there's a clear moment of like, I feel bad. I feel bad about this. And it kind of turns your opinion on her from earlier in the movie. And then what is one of my favorite moments in like any like character moment.
Well, can we go back a little bit?
Oh yeah, sure.
Well, just to the scene where she actually beats her
beats
for
her
the
up,
first
yeah.
time. Yeah, because that's like, since the whole movie is just from the point of view of the kids and everything. Literally, the second she starts beating on her, the camera swaps to a shot of the camera behind Scooty's head, watching the whole thing.
Point of view.
Yeah, watching the whole thing. She beats the crap out of her, gets up, looks at Scooty in the face, and then walks out. And it's just that's just so much more powerful than if they had just like shown it like continued the shot or whatever, just because
or
it's
even
from
like
the point of view from the kid.
Or even like camera stays outside the door and they go in and you hear it happening, but you don't see, like, even just grounding it in the perspective of like, because you kind of forget in movies like this, or like dramas where a kid is one of the characters, you kind of forget like, oh, that's right, that's a kid that's involved in all of these things, where like they don't let you forget. They do not let you forget that, like, no, this is a 6-year-old. These are 6 and 7-year-old friends that this is happening around.
And Scooty had to, by himself, watch his mom get the crap beaten out of her by Mooney's mom.
It's
It's sad. It is heartbreaking.
Yeah, and so all of that happens. She says goodbye to Scooty. She's being brought back up to her mother, who's packing up stuff for her. Mooney realizes what's happening. She's like, "No, I don't want to go. I want to stay with my mom." They're like, "Well, you don't really have a choice." "No, I want to stay with my mom." Mooney gets away from them, bolts. And before we even see where Mooney is going, we see, one of my favorite moments, because there are moments in films where you're like,
I'm about to cry right now.
You didn't need that, but it's a character moment.
Mm-hmm.
The officers go up to Mooney's mother and say, "She ran away. We need you to help us get her back."
You let her just run away?
Will you please just...
And I'm the one who's unfit? Fuck yeah!
It is that one of those moments where you're like, it does not matter what you think about her. It does not matter your opinion of how she's lived her life, how she's tried to provide for her child. There is that deep sense of care. Whereas, like, that's all that matters right now, is that I care about my child, and look at this, I care about my child.
Even though she was kind of a horrible mother in several scenarios,
Right.
the relationship between Mooney and her mother was like unbreakable.
There was nothing but love there. There's absolutely nothing but love there. Even in the tiny moments where she's trying to teach her, like there's a moment they're eating pizza, and Mooney like wipes her greasy hand on her pillow, and her mother says, "Don't do that." Well, it's my pillow.
It's my pillow.
Well, okay, are you going to wash it? And Mooney gets like upset. She's like, but she stops wiping her hand on the pillow, and it's one of those moments where like everybody's had that moment. Like, stop that. Well, I don't want it. Well, you're gonna. Like everybody's had those moments with their parents before, and it's just another example of like this is the like it is for all of the like different way they live, different way they look, like it is at that core like this is a extremely close and loving relationship of this mother and her daughter. And so the very, very end, I'm extremely curious your opinion on, because the very, very end is Mooney runs away. She runs to another motel where one of her friends she makes, Jancy, one of the friends that she makes throughout the course of the movie, lives. She's trying to say goodbye to Jancy. She can't get the words out. This is the only time in the movie where we see Mooney exhibit really any emotion, but other than like silliness or happiness.
She's bawling.
She is like the kind of crying where like
Hyperventilating.
you feel like it's a child crying. It's a small child crying.
Yeah.
And the film switches. It goes from very like stock, like looking at them, 35 millimeter film to
an iPhone camera.
To digital iPhone camera. The frame rate looks a little off. Jancy grabs her hand. They run off towards the street. They just keep running and running. You see them running down the sidewalk, running past cars, running through a parking lot, running through the entrance to Magic Kingdom, and then continues to run up Main Street, USA, and they run over to Cinderella's castle, and they're standing in front of Cinderella's castle, and the film ends. And I love it. And I've heard some people say they absolutely hate it.
Why? I would like to know why. Because literally, that is the perfect ending.
Right.
Because they're literally overshadowed by Disney World this entire movie. They mentioned it all over the place. All these, all the motels that have, their names that sound like, Magic Castle, all that, the gift shops, everything. The whole movie is the helicopters, and the whole movie is overshadowed by Disney World. And so for that to be the ending, them actually running there and everything, these two kids are lost now. These two kids are technically missing, but they're at Disney World. It's just there's so many different emotions kind of happening.
Well, see, that's one of those things where I was, because I know that it switched to an iPhone because Disney doesn't like you filming in their parks.
They had the skeleton crew and everything.
Like, if I didn't know that, if I'm watching, my thought would be probably what my first immediate thought was watching the film was, this is not really happening. This is a fantasy. It feels to me almost like the director going, okay, you want there to be a happy ending. There really isn't for these kids. What would a happy ending? Oh, do you want them to go to Disney? Sure. Let's let them go to Disney. See, they're at Disney. Now what?
Yeah, it's a happy ending, sort of.
Yeah, it's bittersweet because
it's like the opposite of catharsis, because you think that there's some sort of like there's a catharsis going on, but no, they're at Magic Kingdom, and now what? They're looking for Mooney. Now Jancy's gone. Now like they're in like there's no way where the outcome of this would be good.
That's even if that's really happening, then they're looking for that. If you do accept the idea of like, oh, they're just imagining this, then it's the sense of like the only thing they can imagine to make this better would be to go to this theme park that will eventually close. They will eventually have to leave and face the problems that are going on outside. It doesn't matter how old they are. Like, it's oh god, I think it's a really, really good ending.
Same.
And that is actually where the title of the film came from. Fun fact: did you know that?
Like what do you mean? Like
The Florida
specifically?
Project was the code name for Walt Disney World in Florida.
I didn't know
That was the code name it went under before Walt Disney World or Magic Kingdom or any of that was thought of. The Florida Project.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I've never been to Disney.
Oh, dude, I love Disney. But and again, like,
maybe
felt
that works
kinda
two different
bad.
perspectives.
yeah, I felt
I've
kind
never
of
been to
bad
Disney.
watching.
You've been there a couple times.
Yeah. Because like that's one of my favorite things about Florida is not just Disney, but the kind of ramshackle nature of a lot of Florida. Like I have a
I hate
vivid
Florida.
memory of being 13 years old, driving down the road to go up to Disney and passing a gas station that just on the gas station side said like Citgo, price of gas, and below it said like Gentlemen's Club around back. Like just on the regular street, just gas station in Florida. I'm just like
I hate Florida. Put
Like-
this in the video. I hate Florida. Florida's the worst state.
I also kind of love the you see the gift shops that you see in the film, the like orange stand. There's this ramshackle nature to a lot of the things in Florida. It feels like the Outer Banks like stretched out to a whole state, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of love that. And I think that this movie perfectly encapsulates that of like, there are the big shiny things in Florida, but most of it is people just trying to survive and trying to scrape by.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, that is the Florida Project. Yeah. Anything else you want to say? Any last minute thoughts, things you want to impart about this in particular?
It's just that I can't emphasize how much detail, like attention to detail they have. How very subtle so many parts of these movies are, and like these movies, specifically, I think one of my favorite parts of this movie is how they introduce something to you and then they turn it against you, like the free food, Mooney's bath. This only happened, I think, like twice, but Willem Dafoe going out for a cigarette, and then the next time he comes, you sort of barely see somebody leave Mooney and Mooney's mom's room, like around the corner and everything. And
even
just
the last time he has a cigarette, he's around back while they're trying to take Mooney, and he can hear the screaming and the arguing and everything on. And I sat there, I was like, "Come on, William, you know you want to do something. Come on, do something. You want to."
And one thing that like how it does throw stuff at you very quickly sometimes in like that like super abrupt, like, oh god, they just burned down a condo. Oh god, she Scooty's mom just got the crap beaten out of her. But like also with that, they do actually throw in some kind of joking parts. I would say like the lady by the pool, the topless lady by the pool, yeah. And my favorite like at least sort of joke in the whole movie where Willem Dafoe walks out of the front door and all the storks are out there and he's like, all right, time to go.
Boys, good morning. Yeah, you gotta go home. There's cars coming through here. We got guests. No harm, no foul. No foul. There's a joke in there somewhere.
Just another thing to talk about, like his heart of gold and everything, about how he like his boss was saying that nobody can declare residency, so he was arranging at the other motel for Mooney and Mooney's mom to stay at, and they had that whole thing, and they went through all that nonsense, and he was like, fine, I'll just pay, and that still didn't work and everything. And later on, he comes up to her, and that when he tells her that she needs to check in all of her guests and everything, she follows him downstairs and slaps her bloody pad on the window. Like the many multitude of things that he has done for her the second he starts like coming at her about something, she'll get angry.
It's not even like, because you can assume like maybe it's not to this extent, but like he's doing things for other people around the motel too. He's helping them out. He might be like throwing these other people a bone. Maybe it's not to the same extent as her, but he is helping other people as well. So as you're watching this happen and her just completely berate him, you're just like, this is not the only person he has to deal with. This is not the only person that is potentially like yelling at him or fussing at him. You see that earlier in the movie where it sets up the like, he's telling one woman that she needs to leave because she's been seen with having guests coming in and out of her room, and she's yelling at him, berating him. He's just like, it's policy. I'm sorry. You need to go. Call the cops if you want, but like, and another small comedic moment in that scene is as she's yelling at him, her husband, boyfriend, I don't know, like walks up and like just takes her by the shoulders and is just kind of like, all right, let's just go. This is just easier if we just like go, if we just leave. But yeah, it is a movie about the little things, meaning the details and the children, and I think that's where it just excels as a film about. It excels about as a film about empathy and different kinds of empathy.
Definitely.
And just the little things in life. Yeah. So this has been the very first episode. This one will probably go up first just because I'll have more time to tinker with it. But this has been the very first episode of Major Emotion Pictures. Maybe I'll think of a better name.
Title. No,
Okay.
Do not. I love that title.
Okay. I'll keep it.
When you said it in the beginning of it, I geeked. I was just like, no, that's so good. Don't change it.
All right, I'll leave it. But so that was the first episode. If you enjoyed it, I would love it if you would share the video with other people that you know. Give it a like, comment. Subscribe to if you want to. I don't upload a lot to this particular channel, but I have a gaming channel that I'll put in the description if you want to subscribe to that one as well. Cameron, is there any other movie you want to do a quick shout out to? You follow you on socials, YouTube, anything like that?
Yeah, the other movie I want to shout out is Logan, my favorite superhero movie I've ever seen. That was the other one I was thinking about watching. Also 10 Cloverfield Lane. And the only social I want to plug is your Imaginary Friends YouTube.
My Imaginary Friends YouTube?
No, Jordan and I have a YouTube channel called Your Imaginary Friends.
Oh, all right. Well,
that's all I want
send me
to
the
plug.
link. I'll throw it in the description.
All right, I'll DM it to you on Discord.
All right. So thank you everybody for watching. I need to think of like a clever outro. There's got to be some like movie related thing.
Bye.
Sure. Bye.